It's family time with Santa, and Santa loves you so. It's family time with Santa, 3 more nights to go. Only 3 more nights? Well, check off December 21st, okay? You know what I'd like to do tonight? I feel like reading you a brand new story, and it's bound to become a classic. It's about the life of a little sailboat. A Boat Tale, written by Al Capuano and illustrated by Michelle R. Morris. The days were getting shorter and the nights were getting longer, and the elves were busy as could be. Soon it would be Christmas, and Santa would be on his way, delivering toys and goodies to the children of the world. Boys and girls would know the joy of getting presents, but also learn about the joy of giving. For Christmas is about giving and sharing and loving people. It is a special time that started long, long ago and is still very special today. The elves were working hard to finish their work, and toys were piling up so fast and so high. Right in the middle of the elves' workshop stood a mountain of cars and dolls, boats and planes, and games of every kind. Santa would be coming for the toys, and they had to be ready. Well, the big day came, and Santa was right on time. His sleigh was bright and shiny, and the reindeer were dressed in their very best, prancing, dancing, and kicking up snow. Soon they would be flying high across the sky. The day was getting shorter, and the sky was getting darker. It was time to go. With a hearty laugh and a crack of the whip, Santa's shiny sleigh rose high into the sky. It was just past midnight when Santa stopped at Danny's house. Quick as a wink, Santa put the special gifts beneath the Christmas tree. A robe for Mom, a tie for Dad, and a boat for Danny Brown. Danny loved his boat. It was perfect. Not too big, not too small. Actually, it was just right, and that's what he named it. He loved Sundays in the park with Dad and the dog, and the boat he named just right. His best friend Russ's boat was named Aesop. It was the only boat that could go as fast. As he and his best friend Russ grew older, they would often go to the park with the other boys to race their boats. As the years went by, Danny and Russ started to play sports and spend more time with their friends. With every passing year, racing their boats on the pond was something they did less and less. It just wasn't exciting anymore. Other things were becoming more important. The days were getting shorter and the nights were getting longer as the boys grew and grew. Soon summer would be ending, so they decided to go to the beach with their friends and race their boats one last time before school started. The wind and the waves made it fun to swim that day. Danny and Russ lined up the boats and let them go. No one noticed as the sky began to darken and the wind started to blow harder. Suddenly, the rain started to fall and the wind blew the boats into the deep water. The storm pushed the boats far away, then they were gone. All the boys could see were the big waves and the hard rain. The wind pulled hard at just right sails. Aesop was struggling too. The 2 little boats were tossed around, first one way and then the other. Soon, the 2 boats were far apart. Just Right was all alone through the long and stormy night. The days were getting shorter and the nights were getting longer as the gentle wind pushed Just Right across the ocean. Many days went by and many nights went by. She wondered if she'd ever see Danny again. She often thought of Aesop and realized how much she missed her friend. She wondered if she would ever be found. Just Right didn't exactly know when she noticed, but the sound of the waves were changing. The gentle swishing and splashing was getting louder. Just Right was moving toward a low, dark shadow up ahead. Could it be land? Or perhaps a beach in the moonlight? Yes, that's what it was. Land at last. The wind pushed her closer and closer. She bounced from wave to wave and struggled to stay afloat. The water was getting shallow, and she was tossed one way and then the other. Suddenly, she crashed against a rock. She was tumbling in the water. Oh, it was just like the storm that took her away from her home. She bumped hard against the rocks and was again tumbled over and over. All of a sudden, the sea became calm. For the first time in weeks, Just Right felt safe. Moving slowly toward the beach, she saw big logs at the edge of the water. No, they were not big logs. She remembered that shape from the elves' workshop, the day that Santa came to get all the toys. They were sailboats. They were all the sailboats that ever got lost or were forgotten by the boys and girls who once owned them. Just Right was so happy she was no longer alone. There were other sailboats here. Up ahead, Just Right could see an opening between boats. She was getting closer, and she could see the names of some of the boats. There was Sailfish, the White Cloud, and Spinner. Spinner? She knew Spinner. She too had raced across the pond so long ago. How did she get here? She saw more familiar names too. There to the left was Half Moon, and right next to her was Aesop. Just Right looked again. She couldn't believe what she had seen. Slowly she read through the letters. I-S-O-P. There was no mistake. It was Aesop. With a final push of her rudder, Just Right slid into the space near Aesop. Just Right was so happy. All she could see was a bright light that glowed all around her, as bright as a brilliant sunrise. What was this magical place? The days were getting longer, and the nights were getting shorter, and the sun was shining every day. One day, Aesop and Just Right saw a dark shadow on the sand. It came closer and closer. Was it a cloud? Was it going to storm? Suddenly, Just Right was flying up out of the water, and she could feel the pressure of a mysterious force on her hull. She could tell a person was there. He had big, soft hands, and he was chuckling as he looked her over, turning her this way and that. Just Right could feel herself floating down to the bottom of a big sack. Somehow, she didn't feel afraid. As she reached the bottom of the sack, she bumped into another boat. It was her old friend Spinner. Before she could make room for Spinner, another boat came down next to her. Oh, it was Aesop. What was happening to them? Whatever it was, it would be okay, because they were together. The days were getting shorter, and the nights were getting longer, and they had come a long, long way. Just Right was much colder than she had ever been. Suddenly, she felt a big bump as the sack was set down on the floor of a big room. She could hear lots of voices and laughter and clapping hands. The sack was open, and Just Right could see piles of toys all over. Some looked just like her, all dirty and broken. Some looked partly fixed, and some looked good as new. Somehow, Just Right knew she belonged here. Somehow, she knew this was home. Home again. Home at last. Wasn't that a great story? And looky here. It's just right. My elves have done a wonderful job of fixing her up. You know, and maybe someday she'll sail again.